Today we're going to be talking about the concept of a variable. In computer science, a variable is considered as a storage location for data. Another way to think of it is just a box. And you've got a box and you might want to give it a name, and you could call it, for example, A. And you've got a number, it might be 3, and you want to put that number inside the box to store it. In computers you'd write A equals 3, and what would happen is that 3 goes inside the box called A. Similarly, you could have another box, and we call that box B, and we have another number, maybe 5, and if we want the 5 to go inside the box, we write B equals 5, and 5 will be placed inside the box called B. Now we can use these variables to do arithmetic for us. We could have a box and we call it C, and C may be made up of a box A added together with a box B. So if we put the number 3 inside A and we put the number 5 inside B, then obviously C will become 8. However, if we change these numbers and we say for now that A becomes 2 and B becomes 7, then C will become 9. So it's just like arithmetic, just like algebra. However, computers are a bit different because we can do something like, we can put the word foo in A, and we can put bar in B, and if you add those together or join them, and the correct word when you're dealing with strings is called concatenation, you'd end up with foo bar in C. So variables are storage locations. We can think of them as boxes, and we can put information or data into these boxes or these variables, and we can use them in some way in our programs. So imagine now we had a problem to solve. Imagine we're given a box, a cube, which looks like that, and we can label each of the axes, the walls of the cube, the sides. We could call this one A, and we could call this one B, and we could call that one C. And if we wanted to work out the volume of the cube, you probably know that the volume is equal to A times B times C. Now if we wrote that in a program, we may even shorten it a little bit if you wanted to. For example, you may just write V equals A times B times C. Now we remember that now, but in a few months' time we may not remember it. There's something that would probably make more sense. If we take our cube again, and this time we label the edges, we'll call this one length. We'll call this one width. We'll call this one height. Then this time we could write volume equals length times width times height. Now in 3 months or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, we can look at that and see the word volume and length and width and height, and we immediately know what these variables mean. We're giving these variables meaningful names. And when you use meaningful names, it makes your code easier to read. The computer doesn't care whether you call it V or whether you call it volume, or you could call it foo, and you could call this one bar, and you could call this one up, and you could call it down. and the computer wouldn't care. It would go foo equals bar times up times down, and it would work exactly the same. But for the human, words like volume and length and width and height make a whole lot more sense. So when you're naming your variables, try and give them meaningful names, something that will make sense to you when you come back to the code and try and work out what it is you were doing.